The idea of home ownership can and should be really exciting. However, the price tag on a move-in ready home can be overwhelming and a little discouraging. And if you're feeling that way, you're for sure not alone. But as a buyer, specifically a first-time home buyer, a fixer-upper can not only be your ticket to home ownership, but it can also be like one of the smartest investments you can make. What is up, y'all? My name is Paul Winkleman. I am a real estate agent here in Minnesota on the To the Twin Cities team. And this video is going to be all about the benefits of buying a fixer-upper, why it is a smart move, and like I said, for many of you, why it can be your ticket into home ownership. So let's dig in. Number one, right off the bat, maybe the biggest benefit of all is the lower barrier to entry into home ownership with a fixer-upper. Generally, with a fixer-upper, if the house does need work, they're going to list it at a lower purchase price than a move-in ready home. Whether it's because the sellers know there are updates that need to be done right off the bat, or there's a lot of elements about the house that are just super outdated, haven't been touched, whatever the reason may be, but because of that, these are the types of houses that will generally be listed lower than market price, and that makes it way more accessible for buyers that are on a budget. And with that lower purchase price, that generally means you'll need less cash up front for the down payment on the house. And that ultimately means more money in your pocket, money you can use for renovations. Maybe there are things in the home that immediately need attention that didn't get negotiated in the purchase agreement. And so you can enter home ownership with a little more cushion. If there are things that the seller doesn't want to fix that can't get negotiated in the purchase agreement, you can work that out in the price. And then if you can lower that price, then you'll have those funds to fix the things that need to be fixed upon moving. And that might even be a better end of the deal if you can just negotiate a lower price and keep that money. Now you're in control of choosing what upgrades to do, when you want to do them, or how much you want to pay on them. If there's certain utilities maybe that you're looking at that you specifically want, you have the option. You can do whatever you'd like. And here in Minnesota, especially recently, the market can be pretty competitive, and a huge benefit to first-time homebuyers or anyone looking to purchase a home is fixer-uppers will often attract fewer offers, less attention. Not everybody wants to move into a fixer-upper. A move-in ready home is definitely sought after, especially if there's not so much of a budget kind of confining you to a certain price. And so those are going to be the homes that definitely get way more competition, way more offers on them. And these fixer-uppers, they don't see as much. And so you as a buyer, you have less competition, sometimes more leverage because there's not as many offers. You're able to negotiate a little more and not have to worry about other offers coming in that could very well be better and juicier for the seller than yours. And something that's definitely very important to people is location. And there are so many neighborhoods, especially in the Twin Cities, that are highly sought after. People will only want to look in these specific neighborhoods because they love it so much. It's perfect for them, schools, any of those reasons. And if you're interested in those types of neighborhoods, there's a chance that you're for sure not the only one. And so those are the areas that the competition is going to be pretty intense. And so if you're also set on a certain neighborhood, but you're not confined to having a move-in ready home, that can for sure be your way into getting into those neighborhoods. And then now you have a decent house, a great neighborhood, put the work into that, and the equity that is immediately going to come from that is pretty substantial. And honestly, just a smart move. A lot of those neighborhoods can just be out of reach for people because of budget and competition. But if you're not in the market for those move-in ready homes, it really opens up your options as a buyer. Okay, another huge benefit to buying a fixer-upper, and maybe my favorite aspect of it, is the opportunity for customization on the home. If you're willing and ready to do the renovations and that's your plan, that's huge, and it puts you in the driver's seat of all the personalization you want to do. And honestly, that's just so fun. That's exciting. That's now you get to take a house and make it your home. You get to add your unique tastes and styles that you want and, make that vision a reality. I think something that can be difficult sometimes for people is walking into a home that is a fixer-upper, definitely needs some work, and being able to see through the yuck and kind of picture the potential that is in the house. I was just in a home earlier this week, definitely a fixer-upper, and like the bedrooms upstairs, one of them was like Easter pink and the other one was like baby blue. And I'm talking floor to ceiling, everything one solid color. And it was pretty shocking. I mean, you look at it and you're like, whoa, like what an interesting color choice. And so when I say seeing the potential, that's a great example, because it would be pretty easy to walk into that room and see those bedrooms and just think, oh, no way. Like this, it's so distracting that it's hard to picture even what it would look like just all painted white. In that same house, right off the entry, there was a dining room, the wall, and a little pocket door into the kitchen. It made it feel really small, kind of tight. And so when I walk into a home like that, I'm like, oh, let's knock this wall out. You knock this wall out, it opens everything up. And that's a total game changer. But also, I've done a bunch of home renovations. I'm pretty well versed, I would say, in walking into a house and picking out like, okay, well, you could do this, that, and the other, and it would totally change this house. And it's not easy to picture that final product. I've done so many home renovations, a couple flips. I've brought a lot of houses from yuck to yum. And the more you do it, the more you're able to, like I said, walk into a room and be like, hey, if you do this, it'll look so much better. But it's definitely like a learned skill. It's not that easy to envision that potential, especially if you haven't really ever done it. The same house that I'm talking about had carpet all over the house, carpet in the living room, carpet in this dining room. The kitchen was tiled, carpet in both the bedrooms. And that's like another huge thing where like old carpet, especially not only how it looks, but there's usually a certain musk to it. It's not easy to look at this pink room with old carpet and be like, okay, I can see it, wood floors, white walls, it'll look better, right? It's not that easy. But the truth is, taking out walls, carpet, redoing trim, painting the walls, those are all changes that are just night and day when they're done. So when you're looking at these fixer-uppers, know that it's not going to look like that. You're going to change it. It's going to have a totally different feel. And if you can be open to that, if you can really push yourself to see the potential, it's gonna make your home buying experience way more fun. It could also, help you find that diamond in the rough. That house that doesn't look great, but you know that with some work, it could really be something special. And not every fixer-upper requires taking out walls and doing all this crazy stuff. The Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, are flooded with really cool old houses. And not only with a fixer-upper can you personalize the design, but there are also personalization opportunities in maybe more boring stuff, but also way more important as it relates to the home itself. And what I mean is, in a move-in ready home, there could be utilities or amenities that you don't need. Maybe it would be something that costs you extra money. And so instead of paying for new upgraded things that maybe you wouldn't want to, in a fixer-upper, you then have the say in where you want to put your money, what you want to invest in, what things you want to update, and what things are like okay as they are. These also don't necessarily have to be things that are costing you money per se, like a super high-end water filtration system, or I don't know, anything that, would run up your electric bill or your water bill. There could be actual things in the home that are just like a waste of space, These are a little extreme, but like a sport court, golf simulator type thing in the basement, that could be a huge waste of space for somebody. And I think that's a little excessive. There are things like motorized blinds maybe where, okay, I mean, sure, that's not burning a hole in my pocket, but maybe you're just like, that's lame. I don't want that, or I wouldn't have chosen to do that, albeit that is kind of cool. Motorized blinds, I wouldn't mind that. And so the trade-off with a fixer-upper, the benefit is now you're not paying for someone else's taste or premium features that you wouldn't have in your home. And now you can prioritize the upgrades for your budget on your timeline and update the house in ways that you want. Things like energy efficient upgrades, new windows, better insulation, maybe updated air conditioning. Maybe there's only window units and you want to add in wall units that are a little more efficient and less ugly than having a window AC unit. No disrespect to anybody with a window unit. Obviously, they work great and they do their thing. So there's those things, or high efficiency utilities like a new furnace, water heater, switching out the electric range to a gas, whatever tickles your fancy. It's your choice. You're in the driver's seat. You get to choose. And obviously there's levels to how much you want to do in a house. There are a lot of neighborhoods in the Twin Cities with what a lot of people would consider charming being in very cool old homes. And if you like that and it's a fixer upper, there's ways that you can modernize the home, maybe for efficiency or a couple nice touches that'll kind of bring it into this era, but you can still preserve the character and the cool things about that house that you like. Okay, another huge benefit to a fixer upper is equity. Buying a home is an investment, especially a fixer upper. I think if you know what you're doing and you're being smart, the value appreciation that you can get off of renovating a home while you live there and then selling it down the road and then becoming a step-up buyer, getting into something nicer and nicer. This first home investment can really be the building blocks to putting you in a position that maybe you didn't think was ever possible. Now, I don't want to say instant value appreciation, but with the right renovations, a fixer upper can certainly appreciate in value quickly. And then that gives you the opportunity to be building equity way quicker in a home than maybe something that was just move-in ready. Obviously, you have to invest and you have to put in the work in order to reap the benefits, but it's all good. You got such a screaming deal on the house. You saved so much money on your down payment. Your mortgage payment isn't very high. And so you're in a position where you have the funds to invest, you're ready to do it, and it's work, especially if you're doing it yourself. But the benefits in equity alone can truly be substantial. There are a couple other financial benefits that I think are definitely worth mentioning. Number one being tax benefits. There are a lot of home improvements that you can do that could qualify for tax credits or deductions, particularly energy efficient upgrades. I think this is something I could make an entire video on, and I probably will. And then of course there's a potential for some passive income. Let's say you're moving into a home and one of the first things you do is you decide to finish the basement. Well, there's an opportunity for passive income if you wanted to rent that basement out to somebody and generate some income to offset your mortgage, obviously leaving you with more money to do whatever you want with, whether it's home renovations or going to Turks and Caicos. And when talking about equity, I feel like I'd be a fool if I didn't talk about sweat equity, something that I am very familiar with. And if you've never heard of this term, which I find it hard to believe if you're thinking about buying a fixer upper, you can invest your money or you can invest your sweat, or a little bit of both, sure. But especially if you're on a budget, sweat equity is going to become your life mantra. And this is where you can really reap the benefits of doing it yourself. I'm for sure going to make an entire video on this because I believe there are so many things that you can do by yourself that maybe would seem super daunting, but actually aren't that hard. And the amount of money you can save doing these things yourself and not hiring them out can really save you a lot in the end. Earlier, I was mentioning taking out walls to like expand a kitchen dining room. And obviously that's like maybe would take a little more experience. Maybe you'd want to call your contractor Uncle Al to come over and help you do something like that if you've never done it. But painting, anybody can paint. It might not be amazing, but you can do it. If there's a room with carpet, like I was saying earlier, pulling that up, super easy. It's insanely time consuming to pull all the little staples out of the floor. But if you got wood floors underneath your carpet, that's like sitting on a gold mine. Paint those walls. Done deal, baby. And you know, you can have fun with it. Invite some friends over, buy them pizzas and beers and say like, hey, we're gonna scrape popcorn off the ceiling and remove wallpaper today. And it's gonna be a hoot and hollering time. It's pretty cheap labor and, you know, give somebody something to do on a Saturday afternoon in the winter. And frankly, something that's just invaluable to me is by doing all these renovations, you're learning all these skills really quickly and hands-on. And it's more than just watching a YouTube video and being like, okay, I think I could do that someday. You watch the YouTube video and you're like, all right, I'm gonna go do that right now. And having those skills, even just becoming more familiar with tools and, you know, just looking at a home, working on it, understanding it more, obviously that benefits you as a homeowner. If something goes wrong in the house, it would be pretty sweet to be able to look at it and kind of fix it yourself and not have to call a plumber for $250 just to come out and fix something that took him 5 minutes, you know? And like I was saying, so many of these things, they just aren't actually as daunting as they may seem. There's definitely an element of like work involved. Most things that, especially, I mean, I've learned this so hard in my experience. Most things, you look at it, even if you've done it a bunch, you look at it and you're like, okay, yeah, I could do this. Maybe it'll take me, you know, a day. Probably gonna take you a day and a half, 2 days. That's just like how it works. Things just take longer. In an old home, you're gonna run into stuff where you're like, oh, I didn't account for that. That's a bummer. Now I gotta run to the hardware store, blah, blah, blah. I would say just assume that if something can go wrong, it will. But those are like, again, that's a good challenge. If you run into something and you're like, okay, I was doing this, now I need to fix this leak in the sink or something like that, then you learn that and you're like, okay, cool. Now I got a little more plumbing experience. Like, that's cool. More or less, you're just stacking skills and becoming more familiar with the parts of your house. And so for buyers looking to buy a fixer-upper, there is access to certain financing and incentives. There are renovation loans, which are an option for fixer-upper properties. And a renovation loan is basically exactly what it sounds like. So as opposed to getting a loan for the purchase of your house and then taking out another loan to afford the renovations, a renovation loan is a type of mortgage that allows you to borrow the money for the purchase of your home and pay for the renovations or repairs all wrapped up into one loan. There are Minnesota specific options as well as federally backed or sponsored loans. Those ones being the FHA 203K loan and the Fannie Mae home style loan. There's also a VA renovation loan, obviously if you qualify for that, if you're a veteran. And so how these renovation loans work is you, along with the help of a general contractor, create and submit detailed plans for the renovations on the home, and you submit those to the lender. And then from there, the home gets appraised based on its current value, and then they run a projected value once the renovations are done on the home. And so this can be really beneficial for buyers on a budget. But I mean, obviously there's some work that goes into it, but depending on your situation, I mean, it can be incredibly helpful. And so the FHA 203K loan is backed by the FHA, the federal government, and then the home style loan is backed by Fannie Mae, which is a government sponsored enterprise. The few differences between these loans would be things like the qualifying requirements, the amount of down payment required, the types of properties that are eligible for these loans, and also the FHA requires a mortgage insurance premium and the Fannie Mae home style loan does not. Disclaimer, none of this is financial advice and it's all circumstantial whether or not this would work for you or not. And so to move on to the specific renovation loans that we have here in Minnesota, one of them is called the Minnesota Housing Startup Loan Program. And this is specific to first-time home buyers, and it offers down payment and closing cost assistance, which can then be used in combination with renovation financing. There are income requirements and also home price requirements on this loan. There's also the Minnesota Housing Fix-Up Fund. This is a loan for home improvements available to existing Minnesota residents who are either homeowners or buyers looking to renovate after they've purchased their home. This loan can go towards roof repairs, HVAC replacements, accessibility modifications, and energy efficient upgrades, things like that. Of course, this loan also has requirements like a maximum loan amount, and interest rates will be varied based on income. There's also one more that I think is pretty cool. It's the Minnesota Housing Energy Loan Program, which offers loans up to $20K to homeowners to invest in energy efficient upgrades in their home. So whether or not any of these are right for you is circumstantial. I do believe that there is some pretty cool opportunity here to get some help, but I think for buyers on a budget, a fixer-upper can be such a smart investment, and I think it comes with like an extra level of freedom just based on all the customization opportunities and a chance to really make that house a home. That's all for this vid. See you in the next one.